All right, now this is showtime. This is Transparency and Merit. Uh, I am Brian, and we're on with Joe, and this is time and anger management. And time management. What do you do when? What do you spend your time on, and what makes you angry? And some of us are in a lucky spot and we can get angry at the news uh, and the people on the news and the people in social media, which I do a lot. That's really a waste of time. And and then if we talk about time management, I don't know if I kind of confused the two, but how do you get things done more efficiently, and how does one stop wasting their time on things that they shouldn't waste their time on? Joe, do you have a response to what I just said?
Yeah, I can see why you're so kind of wrapped in this sort of idea. But you also have to remember that time itself is an idea, it's a construct. What is time? What is the definition of time? Um, it, and, if you go in and you look at it, it's very interesting. The definition of time, right? The measured or measurable period during which an action, process, or condition exists or continues. And the second definition, a non-spatial continuum that is measured in terms of events which exceed one another from past through present to future. And also, you have to know this definition, a historical period. Historical period. The only time that truly can be measured is time that's past. You can't measure the present. In the moment I tried to measure it, it's already passed. So, and what does non-spatial mean? It means not relating to, occupying, or having the character of space. Not outer space, space. So when you look into the meanings and the underlying meanings, it's a real heavy, and this is all it is, a real heavy layered perception. It's a perception of relationships. And it's, I think people get kind of so caught up and they hear all the, I think a lot of, finger quoting here, but like truly successful people. And what is their secret to success? And often you'll hear it's their management, right? Their calendar management. A lot of the most successful people wake up early in the morning and they plot out their calendar. At least that's what they say. It's, if you're to believe what you see on TV. It's an interesting thing, and how anger is a byproduct of letting time unwind and get out of control in your head. Not you, but just in general. Anger is another complex, albeit more real sort of manifestation. And I think that's a lot of times people allow time and maybe the fear of not getting certain things done, or maybe even time in the sense that, what have I achieved in life? And it really trips a lot of people up and leads them astray. The best times of my life have always been, the most successful times and periods of my life, in fact, have been those times in which I have not had to look at a clock constantly and worry about where I had to be next. I was always in control of, with a mental list of what I need to get done. And that's it. So there's a lot of value, but there's also got to be the understanding of the true definition of time and what it is. And once you realize it truly has nothing more than it's nothing. It's a nothing burger. And I like that like understanding that non-spatial just meaning that it just doesn't have any character in space. It's not relating to occupying or having the character of space. It's such a bizarre thing, but we're given watches, we're given alarm clocks, we're given reminders, we get all these things, and we're truly in a world where I don't know if you remember this, by the way. Do you remember a time when work itself seemed a lot easier? Not necessarily easier. It seemed like there was just you could specialize a little more, take your time and work on things. And I personally remember a time, and this is, I would say, close to like kind of the computer era, when the internet was on the horizon, and I just remember things kind of consolidate. Suddenly, production went into like breakneck speed to kind of keep up, and so many things seemed to be happening, and it was because of this change. There was a time, also remember, when every ledger, all the accounting of a business was done by hand. Just wrote out all the information. Then that went to word processing and all that. So we're just in it's so hard to, in my view, it's very hard to find an equilibrium between where technology has pushed us, because we know we could be more efficient based on data, and a time when we were more balanced with maybe our earthbound existence, writing, reading, learning. That's kind of out the window now. It's just get things done quickly. So I don't know. That was a lot of thoughts there, but that's where I go when I see this kind of idea.
Well, we do want to get things done, and we do want to get them done as quickly and as efficiently as humanly possible, and doing your human best and giving out the best possible input that you could put out at work, and then in your own personal life. Um, you want to give your best, and you want your friends and your family and your loved ones to give their best. Um, I think that is, really an ultimate goal with our human existence. I mean, we are social, and I've heard this said: we're not logical human beings. We're social, and through the social, I think perhaps might come to logic. I could be completely wrong on that. I just heard that one time said, but to a point, we are. I mean, we're both social and we're both logical. We don't do things that hurt us. And sometimes when ideology comes into play, if the ideology doesn't make sense and is something that is um, painful to our well-being, and I see that a lot now. I see that certain ideologies in this country and perhaps within the West, is something that is harmful to the well-being uh, of certain groups, and even the well-being of of the person within itself, the individual. I mean, I guess to a degree we're both individualistic, but we're also social, and we all, you know, we live for other people. I mean, if nobody existed on Earth, if no other living creature existed on Earth, would life really even be worth living? Even if we were, you know, we could live forever and be healthy, would that be an existence that you or I would want to have? So we want to be connected to people, and we want people to be connected, you know, and we want connection with other human beings. And it seems like today it's become a lot more difficult and a lot more hard because of social media. Because of, you know, for me, I feel like there are outside groups that have gained a foothold and have a certain amount of power that make it difficult for people to discuss, that have made it difficult for people to discuss certain ideas and certain thoughts. And I know I'm kind of rambling on here, but that's the thing that makes, and it does make me very angry, because I feel like, to a degree, my personhood, my nature has been considered perverted. My inquisitive nature is mocked, and not only mocked, it has the potential of being punished, and that does anger me. And I spend a lot of time on certain groups that tend to do that, and it's prevalent online, and I think it's also in the realm. It's also come out into the realm of the corporate world and other parts of the world, and it has angered me. I know I spend a lot of time on it, but I do see it as a threat to freedom. And I don't know if I make any sense on this, but it's made me it has made me angry, because it's something that has like no sense of self-awareness and no sense of fairness. And I consider hypocrisy to be abuse. And these certain groups, they don't give a damn about that. It feels like it's just about obedience. I don't know if I've made any sense, Joe. If you want to go in,
Yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense. And I think that, again, not setting a course for yourself, maybe being worried about time. I don't know. I'm just hypothesizing, but time relates to all of these concerns. If you weren't worried about time, and if you weren't being run over constantly by the idea and concept of time, would any of those groups, would any of those thoughts or ideals that you feel are a threat, would any of that make any difference if you truly had time mastered and you had your life as organized as you wanted, as you wanted? If you had, you know, a certain level of, I guess, of personal satisfaction and achievement, would you really care about all of these other things that are really just in the vortex of YouTube or mainstream media? Outside of those things, I don't see where it exists. So the stock market's exploding. It's going to completely dismantle. And one day everything's going to halt, and then we're going to convert to another currency, and things are going to change so fast and furious that these groups in the big picture of things are like ants. They're like micro ants that will have no bearing in reality at all. I mean, that's just how I see it. But I do pose that question though, as far as personal time management, personal anger management. You got to look within before you can help without. You can't love your neighbor if you don't truly love yourself. So I think that's always going to be at the root of visions or perceptions like what the one you're laying down, in my view. And just from an outsider's perspective, I'm trying to speak in a more of a subjective way, not and I mean more of an objective way, not trying to insert my own opinion. But I don't know if that made sense to you at all, but that's kind of again where I'm coming from. Were you able to hear me at all? I can't hear you.
I mean, yeah, and the thing is, I do spend a lot of time, and I have people that I know, and it's only 1 to 2 people, but it's shocking that there are people that are the lack of self-awareness and the lack of the lack of the awareness of hypocrisy, that in my opinion, if you have a position of power and you lack awareness of hypocrisy, certain policies that are hypocritical, you certainly can be very abusive. If a person is not aware of certain forms of hypocrisy, they can become very abusive. And I do believe that hypocrisy is a form of abuse. I could be wrong on that, but that's the way I feel, because it's a sense of unfairness. You're letting someone do something, or you're punishing one person for doing something, and then the other, and then you're letting the other slide. And that's one of the reasons I had the shows that I did. I saw hypocrisy really huge, and now I see it even larger in 2020. The pandemic has really exposed a level of hypocrisy with the establishment and our elites that does anger me, and I think a lot of other people. And social media has kind of exposed how unself-aware, and they don't care to have a discussion with you. And they just demonize you. And it's like, to a degree, when you're mistreated, you do want to shout out, you want to yell out, you want to scream. Anytime you feel you're treated unfairly, you want your day in court, you want your day to be heard. Anytime you're punished, or there's something that you're not allowed to do that you see others doing, I think by nature, you're going to be angry about that. In a society that doesn't allow for justice is a society that's gonna, that's if a people cannot get justice, a people are going to strive to seek revenge.
I tend to think we're in a system where I'm constantly reminding people and myself that silence is acquiescence. And that is probably the biggest issue going. I think people see there's a problem, know there's a problem, but if they're not acting on that problem, then they don't understand it or they don't know it. And I've been told this more than once, that if you if you think you know something and I'm not taking action, then I don't really know it. And that is a hard reality, and it keeps me motivated to keep learning, to keep striving. And from my perspective, and there's many people I've met along this way who feel the same way I do about, you name it, across the board. We agree philosophically on a whole bunch of, right down the line, a whole bunch of things that most people don't care to dip their feet into. And it's been real difficult in that sense. And I never in my life, and it's the weirdest feeling ever, but I never expected to get almost ostracized for wanting to speak the truth. And I can prove it because I've had videos taken down that over time have proven true. And it's, I've had videos taken down that still, where the mystery remains, but I still feel I had the right to say it. And by being restricted in that sense, and to be considered for some of that, to be considered hate speech, really was the cherry on top. And it's driven me to continue to be stronger, more effective, listen better, be a better person, take better care of my temple. And, as long as I'm considering these things and still have time to be able to talk with people and share and be loving, then I feel like I'm doing the right thing, even if I don't know what the next step is. Oftentimes when I don't know what the next step is, I feel like I'm doing the right thing.
I was watching a thing about, and I'm kind of interested in stoicism, but I know that I'm not a stoic. I have a temper. I have the urge to, to seek what I consider to be justice if somebody wrongs me.
Well, all of our shows that had to do with stoicism, that was always almost a byline. I think we always gave that preface that neither of us are really truly stoic. It's a practice, and as we move along in life, we can adapt. We can take some of the lessons we learn and apply them, and truly demonstrate it, not just on shows, but in our everyday life, and from the minute we wake up. Like, I have never really considered this. I'd never really known myself, at least in definition, to be a pacifist. And only recently, in the last 4 or 5 years, I've really learned what it means to be a pacifist. And so I strive for that, to be the best I can be, but ultimately just to really truly live a pacifist life. And that is, it's a little different because I get angry and I don't always know how to control it. I sometimes don't know how to, I don't know how to right a wrong. And so, that there's a lot of curveballs in life. So,
A lot of times I don't know how, and I've struggled with this for years. I'm still not good at doing the right thing with the wrong situation, or doing the right thing when people are in the wrong, because by nature, when somebody does something that is like really rude and nasty, and it's painful sometimes. You do feel that pain. I think, man, I'd love to give them a dose and then some of the pain that they've inflicted upon me. You did it first. Now I'm going to do it back to you. And because again, if you allow something to hurt you, whether it's a human or an animal, and they don't pick on the weak. You know, whether it's a human or an animal, they don't go after a group of hyenas don't attack a lion. They attack a weak animal, and I'm more angry at the people who've made us weak, and the courts that made us weak. So these sociopaths out there that will try to harm us. I mean, I think there are truly unhinged lunatics that the courts have allowed to hurt us, and the establishment has allowed to hurt people that ask questions and ask what's fair and what isn't. And it does anger me, and I do use words to try to how I feel about them, because I feel that they are a lot of times they're very vicious and very vindictive people, and I want to expose them as such. But I also realize that I should use my words less, or only use words that speak when necessary. It's kind of like, when you're learning to fight, you learn to strike when necessary. Because if you go wild, now you can go wild if you're a bigger person and they don't know anything. But if a person is trained, well, you leave yourself open when you strike. So when you're basically fighting a bigger person, sometimes it's best not to use your words, because if they can punish you, if all that happens when you use your words is being punished, what's the point? I can say something that may make me feel better at the moment, but doesn't cause me to win. I believe the book The Art of War even says, if you don't have the strength of 2 to 3 times the numbers of strength, you don't even go into battle. And I don't want to say that like totally, but you should always, if you're going into an engagement or an argument, you should to a degree know like how powerful this person is, what this person can do to you, and then go from there. And sometimes it's best not to say anything at all. But it's hard, because sometimes the things that they say, a person says to you, or at least to me, is so absurd and just basically is so, goes against like just my own common sense, and it's so foolish that I want to retaliate and give them and particularly when they get arrogant, I want to give them a dose of their own medicine and then some. I want to give them not just the spoonful. I want to give them the whole bottle and just shove it right down their throat. And maybe that's just me. If you say things that are stupid and foolish, I want to be able to expose you for what you are. Or and these past 2 years, I have heard my fill of stupid and foolish things that really nauseate me. They disgust me. 2020 and then on, I've heard the types of foolishness that I've heard. It just infuriates me. And there is a part of me that wants to retaliate against these groups that have been so foolish and stated such foolish, hyperbolic, and authoritarian stuff. Or they've said hyperbolic, to me, hyperbolic things with authority behind it. And threats behind it, too.
Well, mandates are a perfect example of what I was saying before, and that silence is acquiescence, because mandates are they only exist on people's belief that they're supposed to be acting one way or another, and when that belief becomes a very strong or majority part of the court of public opinion, the rest are cooked, because they're going to come with that's when these groups start standing tall, and they derive a lot of their strength from people's inability to actually stand up for what's right, and by doing the simple thing of asking leadership, asking officials at a state or county level, asking simple questions like as if you were a child. People do not have that ability anymore. They instead get wrapped up in the hive mind. They get caught up in this narrative that is actually doing them more harm, or at least causing harm to others, and they don't realize it, they don't recognize it, they don't care to do it. All they care about is getting right up in line and following along, and it's so dramatic that
well, a lot of times
yeah.
they want to get out there in groups and shout and yell.
They will stop you from making money. They will go that far.
Yeah. Well, there are a lot of groups that are, they're, for a long time, since, once Trump became president, there were a lot of demonstrations on both sides, and conservatives kind of found their niche, and then they were punished by the establishment. And now there are still smaller groups out there, and they basically go out and they protest, and it does, I can understand that it feels good, but at the end of the day, it's very easy to piss somebody off. It's a lot harder to get them to kind of agree with you. And if you're just shouting at them, and both of you are shouting slogans, and you're finding the person that is the most foolish and the most the most angry or the most woke, you're not gaining anything. And the truth is, you're not gaining anything by engaging with a person who is just filled with their own with their own ideology. You might as well talk to a person that's thoroughly into Jesus or Muhammad or anything like that. What are you going to gain? They're not going to listen. You're not going to change any opinions with these people, and they're not necessarily going to change. You're not going. I mean, you're not going to change their opinion, and and they're not going to change yours. I mean, it's like a Christian and a fundamentalist Christian and a fundamentalist Muslim talking to one another, arguing. They're not going to agree. On average, they're not going to agree with one another. I mean, that does happen, but on average, you're wasting your time. I don't know. I don't know if I made any sense at this point, Joe.
Sure does. Makes sense.
You know, and I think there are people out there that can see more than one side, and it's hard for me sometimes. It's hard for me not to see beyond my own nose, but I try to look at other perspectives, and I've had some introspection over the years, and I have interesting takes on things. But if all a person wants to do is punish, punishment goes two ways. And yeah, and I've said this before. I do believe that hypocrisy is abuse, but for me, I want to be. I want to have time management and anger management, and I think they both work with each other. Am I spending my day constructively? Am I doing what is constructive, or am I just wasting time? And I think in a lot of ways, I'm wasting a lot of time, and I'm not being very constructive. And my anger is not making me constructive. If I get angry, I mean, I could go, take a hard walk, or write a letter, or do some cleaning or something like that. There are a lot more things that I can do with my anger, with that energy, than do what I'm doing. And a lot of people are out there, they look for things that are rage bait.
I think the most effective way you can start your strategy is to break down two things. And that's it. Break these two things down. Look at time. Look at time management. Look at anger. Look at anger management. I'm sorry. So there's four things: time management, anger management, and maybe even look up the definition of management and look up those words and look at it with the most scrutinous eye you could apply, and really focus on the meaning of all of those words. What is actually, what are the functions that are actually occurring, because one is biological and one is not even real. So if you could decipher that, and you can understand it better, that might be able to work better for you, rather than taking each as a concept individually based on what you think and move it drudging forward. You really need to break those items down and learn them to really apply what tools you already have, and what it just is a more natural approach. For time management, it's a natural approach to an unnatural concept. There's time in nature.
With that being said, Joe, I think I for myself, hopefully other people who may listen to this, we get maybe if we break 30, we're lucky. But if anyone gains anything from that, I'll add on this that. A lot of people have bad time management and they procrastinate because they want to be perfect, but perfection is the enemy of progress. And that I'll end on. Joe, do you have anything to add before I end this show?
Nope, that's a good comment. All right, that's it.
You guys, like and subscribe. Maybe even leave a comment down below. I know that I haven't been on lately, but I'm going to perhaps continue this. I'm going to see if tomorrow I do better, and just even if I do better by an inch, by a minute, it's always improvement. All right, guys. Again, like, subscribe, leave a comment down below. We are a work in progress. Thank you for listening.